Hey everyone, I just finished my 20 hours of Necrobinder, a 10 practice to fully flesh out my thoughts and opinions on the character, and got a 3 streak today on stream. So, winning pretty consistently and feeling good about the character now, so I figured it was time to actually put those opinions into list format. Hope you enjoyed the video. Just to start, I think this character is probably the most interesting design space, at least for me, and at least leads to the most interesting decisions inside of runs. I do think in general the game has a problem where you get to Act 3 and everything is really boring. Like, you either win really easily, and which leads to you can just dodge everything inside of Act 3, get to the boss gauntlet with all your potions intact, and just know you're going to win and be fine. It never really feels like you're put under pressure in Act 3 and have to be farming stuff and optimizing things inside of Act 3 in order to make the boss gauntlet possible. I think Act 1 and beginning of Act 2 are still really, really interesting, and the character often doesn't have the whole game solved by then. There are a few things that lead to you basically knowing I'm going to win the run the second it's in the deck, and we'll talk about that. It feels a little too accessible in general. Okay, so we can briefly explain Asti, I think, for people that don't know what's going on with that. You have like a little summon that basically will tank attack damage for you, and whenever you see this summon keyword, it adds HP to him, and if he is dead, it will revive him with this amount of HP. So there is a lot of cards that interact with sort of like having him die, like bone shards here. If Asti is alive, he deals 9 damage to all enemies, and you gain 9 block. Asti dies. There's things that interact with like killing him and bringing him back, or making him really big and absorbing a lot of damage. And your starter card scales with the HP of Asti. So if you're able to maintain Asti's HP, your damage output goes up. That does lead to, I think, the dominant way to play this character is really just blocking. If you block, you have damage, and then you also don't take any. And there's not a whole lot of enemies that really punish you for just sitting there for a while. In fact, there's some elites like the Coral guy in Act 1 that force you to interact in the fight for 5 minutes. Like, you have 5 turns, you know? Like, you have to just sit there. So you really do need to block. And I think there's a couple of really overtuned cards on this character in general that make blocking really easily and sort of mean you never have to actually take the damage cards very often. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Afterlife, this is essentially a bad block card. Your starter cards has summon 5 on it, so the going rate for that can be just compared to that. It's 1 more. It does upgrade to 9, I believe, and say exhaust on it. I can't really see a lot of times where I would like this. I picked it a few times just to try. And the character basically has built-in barricade with the summon mechanic. When Asti has HP, it carries over between turns. So this is like better defend, essentially. But I don't think it's super amazing. Like, I'm never like incredibly excited to see this. There's just other things. And the fact that this card is essentially already in the base deck just makes me not want it very often. Banshee's Cry. Okay, already getting super, super cool card. 33 damage to all enemies, costs 2 energy less for each ethereal card play this combat. It does cost 6. So most of the time, you would look at this and say like, wow, okay, I need to have like a lot of synergy pieces to make this even playable at all. You'd have to discount it at least twice by playing 2 ethereal cards to even begin to play it. The thing is that a lot of the good cards in this character just say ethereal on them for some reason. So I think one way to maybe balance this is to just remove the ethereal keyword off of some cards, although there seems to be some ethereal synergy package in general going on. But this very often is just 33 damage to all for 0. And can be a loop payoff. And as I've talked about on the other tier lists, I think this game really pushes towards having small decks. Some of the most common Niao bonuses are just remove 2 and transform 2, which automatically means 1, you just have to pick less cards because the good cards you do add, you see more often. And you just don't have to bother with a lot of things. So you can keep your deck really small. And all the characters really, except for Silent, have targeted exhaust to thin the deck down to a point where you can just play this with like 2 other draw cards, or another mechanic that we'll talk about later. But yeah, 33 damage to all for 0 very often is just winning almost every fight that's long. And it is pretty good front load if you do have a lot of these like ethereal cards in your deck and there's sort of a critical mass of that. That's probably going to happen anyways. So yeah, usually this is just 33 for all. The upgrade's not really that relevant. It's like 39 damage or something. It just doesn't matter. 33 is just a big enough number that the upgrade never really plays. And I think in this game in general, the upgrades are more hard to come by quite a bit. Act 1 is a lot more punishing. You have to rest a lot more just because advanced hallways are really scary. So the 4th hallway onward, all those fights are just really terrifying enemies that are just going to kill you very frequently. So yeah, really overperforming. Okay, Blight Strike. 8 damage. Apply Doom equal to damage dealt. Doom is essentially a mechanic, and this costs 1 energy, by the way. But Doom is a mechanic that essentially just says at the end of the enemy's turn, if they have more Doom than they have HP, they just die. So you can sort of read this like 16 damage if the enemy has no shield, which is decent. There's just better ways to get this effect, I think. And Doom in general is... the numbers are kind of all really high. I think a lot of people have been comparing it to Poison. It's just not at all what it's doing. Poison does damage over time. Doom does not scale. It stays static. So when you apply like 10 Doom to an enemy, that number never goes up. It's basically just damage that will be dealt at a certain point. But you have to apply enough Doom to an enemy for them to actually die and for it to trigger. And even on the turns that it does apply, you still have to block. And that kind of invalidates this card a little bit. It's not awful. It's just an okay damage card. But there's cards that will block and apply Doom at the same time, and that's just a much better combination of things that you generally want to be doing on this character. Bodyguard is your starter card, summon 5, 1 energy. We already talked about it, but it's just basically same as Afterlife, doesn't say exhaust. Okay, Bone Shards. 1 energy. If Asti is alive, he deals 9 damage to all enemies, and you gain 9 block. Asti dies. Going straight into A. This is quite solid AoE. It's basically just 9 damage, 9 block. Asti dying is relatively annoying when you are already winning the fight and you're able to just stack up Asti HP. However, I think the early game is really terrifying, and oftentimes Asti will just be at 1 HP or dead already, and this doesn't really cost you anything. It's basically like 8 block, 9 AoE. Upgrades to 12, which is really solid. And AoE in general is just more important in this game than it was in the past. So I think it's pretty solid. I would not put this like at top of A. I think as we put more stuff in A, this is probably going to be like the bottom of it, just because this drawback is pretty real. And if you already have other ways of dealing AoE damage, you kind of just want to have Asti stack up HP. Every turn, Asti will gain 1 health if he's alive. So you're sort of incentivized for sticking around in fights because you basically have a starter relic that says passively you just gain 1 block every turn, which you might not think is a whole lot, but stacking that up over the course of like 3-4 turns means you're just not really taking chip damage very often. And when you do brick your draws, Asti having HP just means that you don't take damage either. So again, being able to block a lot does matter, and storing Asti HP does matter, but this number is pretty solid. Okay, Borrowed Time. 0 energy. Apply 3 Doom to yourself, gain 1 energy. I don't know quite. I don't think I would put this quite in S. It is like a big infinite enabler, so I'm going to throw it in A for now. But dooming yourself is less of a downside than you might think, especially if you're going infinite. But you basically have to just have less HP than Doom. So unless you're extremely low and this is going to kill you from like 1 or 2 plays, it's probably just free energy. This upgrade goes to 2 energy, which is enough to just almost make any deck go infinite. Even 1 energy can go infinite quite easily. So it doesn't even need the upgrade. And notably, if you are infinite, you can have like 999 Doom. You won't end your turn because the enemy dies before anything happens to you. So as long as you kill the enemy, you can have more Doom than HP. So it just creates infinite loop payoff. So yeah, very strong card. Enables a lot of strategies and feels a lot easier to take in the early game compared to something like Regent's Energy Gain Alignment, which costs stars. But this is just 0 energy, reusable, doesn't exhaust. Really crazy card. Berry. 52 damage for 4 energy. I think this thing is really hard to play. There's obviously times where you can. It's just really clunky, and you can't really rely on having 4 energy in a lot of situations. I don't know if there's some really obvious way that I'm just missing to cheat this out, but it has no keywords. It just says 52 damage on it, which to me feels like I can't pick this early. I transformed into it in one of my runs from Niao and could never play it. I think it played 1 time the entire run. So it just feels like it's a curse that you can't add to your deck at all. unless maybe somehow you have like the shopkeeper Snecko that just randomizes things. It's just really, really awkward. You would need to combo it with some sort of energy gen like borrowed time or whatever, but even then, I don't really want to add this sort of draw reliance into my deck when the payoff is literally just 52 damage that doesn't scale and doesn't do anything else. That doesn't end a lot of fights and doesn't block, so if I'm doing that in a boss fight, for example, and just playing 52 damage, and the enemy doesn't die, well, I haven't blocked. So the risk of carrying this thing around is that it never plays ever, and the payoff is just not that solid. There's other things that do it better by quite a lot. Okay, calcify. Austi's attacks deal 4 additional damage. I have never really felt the need to have this, to be honest. The Austi attack package to me feels like the weakest. You do have the starter card that punches the enemy, and Austi does that damage. Notably, if you are weakened, it does not weaken Austi, and also strength down does not weakens Austi attack either. So there is some reason it gets around like the Laga Matriarch or whatever to have this, and can do some things. There's like a 0 cost Austi attack that is very pickable in early game, so maybe if you have that this gets you through the early game, but it just feels like a sort of mediocre card. It's definitely pickable, as most things are in this game. Like, C does not mean completely unpickable, but just not something I really care about almost ever. Okay, Call of the Void. This is essentially 1 energy. At the start of your turn, add 1 random card into your hand. It gives Ethereal. Hello World, it doesn't clog your deck. So Ethereal just means the card goes away at the end of the turn, so probably somewhere in A or B. If you get this early, random card gen is very strong, especially when you don't have to keep the card around. It's just draw an extra card every turn. And sometimes this can just add really, really strong cards into your hand that you have not seen in the run yet. So it just solves a lot of bosses. I think it's kind of a 1-card solve, especially when you're just going to be sitting around blocking all the time. You're eventually going to hit something that just wins the fight on the spot. And that's sort of the playstyle of Necro right now, is that I just want to block over and over. So when the fights are going long, as they often are here, this can add extra block output to you. It can add extra energy. It can add damage that ends a fight, etc. Feels like a very, very solid card. It is rare. I'm not going to put this in like S or anything. It's not like game warping, but just a pretty strong card in general. I think just the fact that you see it up against other rares very often makes me want to maybe drop it into B, but the effect is good. Just don't be scared of random card generation, essentially, is what I'm getting at. Okay, Capture Spirit. Okay, 1 energy, enemy loses 3 HP, add 3 souls into your draw pile, going straight into S tier. This thing is ridiculous. One of the main infinite enablers. Adding souls essentially just say 0 energy, draw 2 cards, exhaust. So what this says really is I pay 1 energy to add 6 draw worth of stuff into my draw pile. If you notice, with borrowed time, you might already be here. If you have these 2 cards in your deck, they don't need to be upgraded and you're already infinite. It does damage, and it creates its own infinite draw loop, so it's a 2-card infinite combo. You literally just play Captured Soul, play Borrowed Time, play a soul to redraw into both, have 3 extra souls remaining, hold 1 in your hand, and then just do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Really, really gross. This is just completely overstated in like some way. I don't know how they're gonna balance souls in general. I think you need to like be able to make a lot less of them, but even if it's only made 2 souls, it's still infinite. If it makes 1, then maybe it's not as good, but it's really strange. Like, I don't know how they're gonna balance this thing. I think they just need to make souls something else, or take away the energy gen of this character to make it so you can't just abuse some sort of infinite with this. Almost every run with this character, and I just finished streaming and playing a bunch of runs on stream. 3 streak, basically just doing this every run. It just turns into make souls, play borrowed time, go infinite, or have some other way to generate energy and go infinite. I haven't really had a lot of runs that haven't done that in general. So while I was like working on learning this character over the past couple days and getting a grasp on it, I feel like that's just how most of the runs went. And it feels like it wins a very large amount of the time. There's not really enemies that punish you for trying to do this. This character still has access to targeted exhaust. So really gross. Really, really, really gross card. Okay. Cleanse. Summon 3, exhaust 1 card from your draw pile. So this again is the targeted exhaust that I'm talking about. Only costs 1 energy. This is not the premium way to do it, but still a very strong card. Again, if every run can be narrowed down to I just exhaust my deck and go infinite, I'm going to throw this in A. Just targeted exhaust is really strong. And summon as well is a very, very strong keyword as well. It's just barricade block. And that is fixing your bad draw orders. Like, not only exhausting the statuses and cards that are in your draw pile, but also giving you block as well. Like, crazy card. Okay, Countdown. I heard some people poo-pooing about this. I'm going to throw it in B. I think it's a very solid early game pick. I might even move this up, to be honest, but this character really feels like it struggles in early game the most, and Countdown feels like it solves a lot of problems. It says 1 energy at the start of your turn applies 6 doom to a random enemy. That is essentially just 6 damage per turn. That's how you can think of it. It's a power that you just don't have to worry about. It's going to tick, and it's going to do a lot of things with a lot of the doom synergies on this character that do exist. So I think it opens almost every doom synergy because you're always going to have doom applied every turn, except that the enemy has artifact. So this is essentially just fumes, as chat just said. But yeah, really opens up a lot of things. There's cards that say, like, if you have applied doom this turn, make a bunch of block or do more draw or do more whatever. There's just like a lot of combos with this. And it opens up all of them while also just letting you spend all your energy on defense and the early game while the enemy still dies. And if you're putting 3 energy into block on this character, usually the enemy is just full blocked. Yeah, it doesn't need any buffs at all. I think it's quite good. It's just like a well-designed card. I think the number is not insane on it, but it does the thing, and it actually bridges you into stuff. And that's like one of the more fun things in this game, I think, is the card that allows you to start picking the cards you normally wouldn't want to take, because you're like, oh, this is cool because I get to do doom every turn, and now this thing just works no matter what, and it fixes the draw order issues. You don't have to draw it with something else in your hand. So these sorts of cards that make your synergies turn online and opens up everything else is exactly what I think Slay the Spire should be built around, where you have these sort of bridge cards to get you into final synergy pieces. And those sort of decks feel really cool. I do think this character, more often than any other character, like I said earlier, has these moments where you're staring at a screen of 2 choices or 3 choices, and they all look like they could be correct. The other characters don't really feel like this. This character does, and I think the only thing is that it just ends up infinite more often than not. That's my biggest complaint, but that's kind of a problem with the game in general right now, is that energy generation is just too abundant. I think they thought that by removing energy relics from the game, they would need to compensate by having energy be readily available in the character's kits, and it just feels like they went overboard. Okay. Dance Macabre, 1 energy. Whenever you play a card that costs 2 or more energy, gain 3 block. I don't know why this card exists. I've literally never felt the need to pick this. I'm going straight into D. This is like very weird. You can't really proc this more than once a turn. And Metallicize from Spire 1 just gives you 3 block every turn without doing any extra work. So I'm pretty sure if you discount like Banshee's Cry, for example, it doesn't even proc Dance Macabre. So it doesn't really feel like you need to be doing anything with this. It's like so much work to get this thing to work for absolutely no payoff. Like if it said 6 on it, I think I would maybe pick it sometimes, but I don't know how often I'm building a deck around expensive cards. That's just like not a thing that happens. So I'm not really sure what they were going for this with this. I think they could turn it into something like After Image, where it just like, if you play a card that costs energy, gain an amount of block, and then I'm not sure where they would go from there, but it would at least be way more pickable than this. Worse than Barry? I don't know. I'm not really ordering the D tier. I think when the cards are bad, I just don't think about it too much. Okay, Deathbringer. 2 energy, apply 21 doom, and 1 weak to all enemies. This is probably like top of A, right? Weakness is just a crazy keyword in this game. And 21 doom is a big number for AoE. So I think this is quite good early game. Weakening the enemy while you're also doing damage to them is just a really nice effect, and the numbers are just big on it. It might even warrant going into S. I'm not really sure what I want to include up here. We can do some reordering after more cards get put, but it's definitely good. Probably just pick this early on site. There's definitely times where you know you don't need it, but it's a lot of output in general, and numbers are just big. Big card good. Okay, Death March. Deal 8 damage, deal 3 additional damage for each card drawn during your turn. Pretty interesting, working with a Souls mechanic notably, and costs 1 energy. I think this is somewhere in B or A. I'm not exactly sure where here. Again, we can move it out, up or down. The fact that it just does 8 right away without doing anything else is already like, you know, if you completely brick, the fact that you get a consolation prize of 8 damage is still pretty nice. And this goes a lot bigger with souls. And a lot of the soul cards, like Captured Spirit makes 3 souls. So if you just chain soul into soul into soul, you've drawn 6 cards, and suddenly this is doing like 26 damage or whatever, 24 damage. Yeah, kind of just crazy, right? Like the eventual thing it can do is really, really cool, but you do want some sort of like other payoff with it. I'm just not really sure how often you're getting like this magical scenario. So probably I'm not putting it in A, but it's a decent damage card early that you want to click a lot of the souls cards anyways. They just come attached, and same thing with Doom. Like they come attached to things that are just kind of good effects on their own. Maybe I drop it below countdown, but yeah, it's fine. Death's Door, gain 6 block. If you apply Doom this turn, gain 2 block additional times, or block 2 additional times. Sorry, very important wording. 1 energy. Basically, if you apply Doom, this has block 18 on it. If there's some sort of enchantment on it that increases the block, it will multiply that as well. So it's very interesting that this number just gets applied multiplicatively. But the upgrade is pretty bad. Not that it matters, because like if you're picking this, you probably have some way to apply Doom pretty consistently. A lot of the cards just do that, and then it just blocks a million. So I think this goes in A. Works notably with Countdown. This is one of the really good synergies. That is quite nice, and just block cards are good. Obviously, you need like something. You need some Doom in the deck, like 1 or 2 Doom cards, but that sort of just happens, it feels like. And obviously, Countdown just makes this an insane card. I feel like this character has one of the easier times lining up combos. Just because of the amount of souls in the deck. So you're able to draw into your stuff together, and that is definitely a big help for picking these sorts of cards, but it's just a solid block option. It is a little situational, so maybe we drop it a tiny bit, maybe bottom of A, but the number is just massive. If this is going off, it's 18 block. That's just disgusting. And yeah, we'll talk about Neurosurge, I think, as well, since it got brought up in chat. This is 0 energy, draw 2 cards, gain 3 energy at the start of your turn, apply 3 Doom to yourself. So this is essentially Countdown on yourself, but like we talked about, Doom on yourself doesn't really do anything. Usually this just says like, I end the fight. This is pretty easy S tier. 3 energy, 2 cards for 0 energy is just ridiculous. The Doom is basically just does not matter, and sometimes it's even a positive, like with Death's Door, right? So pretty crazy card. This is essentially just like offering Adrenaline, all the cards that everyone loves from the old games. Don't think about the downside. It can kill you, but like it's really probably not going to. Just crazy card. Okay, Debilitate, 1 energy, deal 7 damage, vulnerable and weak are twice as effective against the enemy for the next 3 turns. I don't know why this thing says 3 on it. It could say 2, it could say 1 and probably still be pickable. Like I think it could say 1 and upgrade to 2 and still be very good. This really just says that like weak is just blocking for half now instead of 25%. Which is just disgusting. Like, disgusting card. Deals damage as well, right? But it's like magnifying your damage and magnifying block. This is like definitely an A tier. You're just going to have weakness very often on this character anyways. All the weak cards are just really, really strong. We haven't gotten to them, but you'll take my word for it for now and then see later. Yeah, definitely really, really powerful card. This invalidates a lot of the enemy's damage. You sort of just like apply weak and play Debilitate, and they can't do anything for 3 turns. This upgrades to 4, it just doesn't matter, but 3 is just an insane number. I don't know why they thought this was fine. It's a ridiculous amount of block. Essentially, you can read this as another weak and extra damage for 3 turns while also doing damage, which is just gross. Okay. Defile, 1 energy, Ethereal, deal 13 damage. This upgrades to 17. I think this is a really, really solid damage comment early on. That number is just crazy. It's basically Hemokinesis without the downside, and Ethereal is a keyword that you do care about on this character. Having Ethereal cards is just a positive. In the endgame as well, even if you have no Ethereal synergy whatsoever, just exhausting your garbage attacks that don't actually scale or contribute to your main game plan is really good. I think that's one thing that newer players are pretty wary of, is just exhausting and Ethereal. And all these keywords that sort of like remove cards or get rid of, like, I don't know, Pale's Eye is a good example of an ancient relic that exhausts your whole hand and takes an extra turn. I've had people talk about how they think that seems kind of bad. Vaulting and exhausting your whole hand, both of those things are positives. So you don't need to be scared of the exhaust. Exhaust is a very good mechanic, especially if you learn how to abuse these sorts of small deck loops. Just getting rid of 4 or 5 cards means that you just sort of win. Okay. Defy, 1 energy, Ethereal, gains 6 block, apply 1 weak. This is like one of the best cards in the class. I don't even understand why this thing is a common. It says Ethereal on it for absolutely no reason, so it applies all your synergy packages and gets out of the deck when you don't need it. There's just like way too many cards that exhaust on this character. Also, there's targeted exhaust. Also, this thing upgrades to 2 weak, 7 block, which basically says 1 energy, block 20. You really need to think about weak in terms of how much damage it's blocking on the enemy and not just the keyword itself. Like, think about everything in terms of numbers. How much is that actually doing? It's a lot. So this is one of those cards that the second you see it in early game, you just slam it and upgrade it immediately, and it's just 1 cost leg sweep. Silent has to work so hard to have this card, and yeah, Defy is just completely busted. Take multiple copies, weak chain on the enemy. Like, I don't even know what this thing is. Just disgusting card. Okay, delay. 2 energy, gain 11 block. Next turn, gain 1 energy. This is like low B, high C maybe. It's not awful. I don't know exactly where to throw this right now. I don't have strong opinions about it, and I think when I don't have strong opinions about it, then it just ends up somewhere in here. This is just like an okay card. Like, converting energy or converting your energy now into energy next turn is a decent effect. It's just good to have like 1 big turn, and blocking 11 is like a decent number. I think when you just look at Defy on this card or on this character and it says block 20 for 1 energy basically, why do you need delay? You know, like, how desperate do I need to be in the early game to pick delay when I could just have a Defy? And it's more likely I have a Defy in the deck in general, right? So Defy, like, the existence of this card sort of makes this not really matter. The number would have to be a lot bigger, I think, for it to really matter. Like, of course, again, you can pick it. It's very, very pickable, but that is the problem, I think, with the state of the game so far, is that there's not much reason to pick things when there's just clearly better options at common rarity. The things just get invalidated so quickly. It doesn't even have ethereal keyword on it, so it just doesn't work with a package in the same way that this does. This works with debilitate. It works with like the ethereal cards that we haven't talked about yet. Just gross card. Okay. Domain. It looks like Demesne, if you're confused. 3 energy, ethereal. Again, don't know why that keyword exists on here. It's just good. At the start of your turn, gain 1 energy and draw 1 additional card. Yeah, ridiculous card. I don't think I really have to talk about that. Getting extra energy and drawing a card is good. It upgrades to 2 energy, which makes it much easier to play, and it's going straight into S tier. Yeah, I don't think I really need to explain this. I think anyone can look at this card and then just see, like, yeah, every single turn for the rest of the fight, I just have really good turns. It does both the things that you really want to be doing in a card game, which is just giving you both your resources to abuse. Yeah, not much to elaborate on here. Devour Life, 1 energy. Whenever you play a soul, summon 1. This is going in S tier, I believe. Maybe top of A. Bottom of S tier for now. 1 energy, it's power, so it gets out of the way, and this upgrades notably to 2. So it really wants to have the summon 2 effect upgrade. And you can basically think of this as every time you play a soul, block 2. And it also scales your damage because it scales your starter card that deals damage based on Austy's HP. And the block doesn't fall off, it just stays. So given the fact that a lot of the souls cards just make 3 to 4 souls without really trying, Capture Spirit just upgrades to 4 souls. It's right next to it. That just turns into give Austy 8 HP and draw like a million cards. So I think depending on how the deck is looking, maybe we can just put this in A for now, but an insanely like strong card when it is doing something. If it's not doing anything, you'll obviously know, so maybe I can't put it into S. I feel like this is kind of like I can just pick this card no matter what. I think that's maybe going to be our criteria here. But yeah, Devour Life needs obviously a little bit of synergy. Just the payoff is so worth it when it actually works that I feel like it deserves a really, really high spot. Okay, Dirge. X cost. Summon 3 X times. Add X souls into your draw pile. This upgrades to a ridiculous amount to make it 4 X times and also souls plus. So this is one of the main reasons why Infinite is so easy on this character alongside with Capture Spirit. It works with Chemax. It works with like pretty much anything. You can put 1 energy into this and it's still going to be crazy. If you have borrowed time, you can just play this as well. But what this does is it means that your Austy HP is going to go up while you're doing this infinite loop, which turns your starter card into infinite damage as well. That persists over turn. So even against enemies that have phases that you need to kill multiple times, you just kill them immediately. It scales damage, blocks, and adds draw all at the same time in an X cost. And there's a lot of things in this game that like multiply cards, like let you play them multiple times more accurately. And also just like create a bunch of energy to dump into this. Like Neurosurgeon to Dirge is just ridiculous. I mean, if you're like being able to dump a ton of energy into this thing, you're probably just gonna win. There's not really any reason I think you shouldn't be picking this card. Like normally X cost cards, they're kind of risky because you have to dump a bunch of energy into them and they don't block, and then you get some payoff later. But this just blocks and gives the payoff like immediately. I don't understand. I mean, these souls kind of are just a little polarizing in the fact that when you can make them and you can generate energy, you're just probably infinite on the spot. You don't need to be infinite, but it's just a strong card even if you're not going infinite style stuff. Which again, this character feels like more than any other, you can just do other things and it's always like correct, you know, like you can look at 3 cards and all 3 could be correct depending on what you want to do. It feels like that's not so true with the other characters, and that's why I feel like this is the best design character so far. But obviously there's some things that are just a little too strong. And yeah, the community is sort of calling this Dirge slop. Every run just sort of looks like Dirge into borrowed time, and that's not a really great feeling. Okay, drain power, 1 energy, deal 10 damage, upgrade 2 random cards in your discard pile. This is not an insane card by any means. I think I'm just going to throw it in C. This is sort of where the I don't have strong feelings about this card goes. It can be like boss scaling in long fights. It can upgrade your blocks. It can upgrade your attacks. It can upgrade like your whole deck, essentially. It upgrades itself to be 3 random cards in your discard pile, which is pretty cool, right? So it can be like a kind of a janky scaling solution. So it definitely has a place. But most of the time, I think it's just a little too slow. I just don't really see the need for this. Again, it's some early game damage. It does scale. So if you're like really struggling from some elites early, which is I think is where this character struggles the most. I think Act 1 is going to be the hardest part of the run for most characters, but especially for this character. I don't think you're really going to be often running into every single elite. Feels a little wrong. You kind of just block all the hallways, see all the good cards because you farm fights, and then you're happy. Okay. Dredge, put 3 cards from your discard pile into your hand. Exhaust, 1 energy. This is a nice card. I don't think it's insane. Probably somewhere in like B tier, I would imagine. Or maybe I'll throw it at the top of B here and put Defile down a bit. But this lets you pull back like your energy from borrowed time. It lets you pull back like souls from cards that put souls in the discard pile. It lets you pull back your 1 big huge block card, lets you pull back Defy. It gets out of the way. That's like really nice about this, is that it exhausts itself. So it sets up a lot of your combo pieces. I think this character can sit around and have long fights, and that makes a card like this a lot better. You don't need to necessarily have the best first cycle draw order ever if all your cards just say block on them, and any of them will do. And when that happens, eventually you can line up your combo pieces together and you'll be happier. I think other characters like Regent would suffer pretty hard for having something like this, just in the first cycle. Obviously, like if it lines up and it works, then you're going to line up your combo and it's going to be really, really good. But it's an interesting card. I don't pick it a whole lot, but it definitely performs, I think, when you know that you need to be doing certain things to line up some combo. You can pull back like your retain cards, whatever. It's just quite good. Just B tier. Okay. Eidolon, exhaust your hand. If 9 cards were exhausted this way, gain 1 intangible, 2 energy. I think the 9 card thing doesn't happen very often. You kind of need to be doing soul stuff, and that's the only way you're really going to have a full hand. But this is just really 2 energy to exhaust your hand. I don't think it's like crazy. You can enable infinite with stuff with this, so it's not going to probably go any lower than B. It might deserve to go in A. I don't feel super strongly about it. The times I've had it, it's felt a little awkward. The 9 intangible, or the 9 cards to get intangible just doesn't feel like it activates a whole lot, but being able to exhaust your whole deck just makes your infinite a lot faster. It exhausts a bunch of status cards, so it definitely has a use. It's far from useless whatsoever. I don't feel like I need to elaborate on this too much, just because we've talked about exhaust a lot already. Okay, end of days, 3 energy, apply 29 doom to all enemies, kill enemies with at least as much doom as HP. So this essentially just turns your doom into actual damage right away and ends the enemies right away. This is enough damage to actually kill stuff in early game and like Act 2 and stuff, and follows up on a lot of the other doom cards as well that do AoE. I don't think it's like the craziest card ever. In the end game, you're really not going to be happy to draw this most of the time. But it is like an early game card that gets you through sort of like the bad parts of the character's kit. Probably bottom of A tier on this one. And I think it just has a lot of uses. As Chad just mentioned, it kills millipedes in Act 2, which is really, really nice. This character struggles with that. Doom just doesn't interact favorably with millipedes at all. And there's some interactions, I think, with Doom that don't really work in your favor, while at the same time there being a lot of ones that do. So you kind of got to trade off both ways. I might go up or down on this. This guy could definitely see getting bumped up or down based on playing the game a little bit more, but I think A seems like a fair placement. I wouldn't be upset if anyone said plus or minus 1 on this. Either way. Okay, Enfeebling Touch. 1 energy ethereal enemy loses 8 strength this turn. Once again, this ethereal keyword is a positive, and 8 strength is really, really strong against any multi-attackers. I think this just goes straight into A tier. You could honestly argue this to be S tier. I don't necessarily know, but that's just a lot of block output. Like, a lot. If you don't want to play it, it exhausts. There's a lot of reasons why that is good, as we've gone over before, so you're going to notice that whenever the ethereal keyword comes up, the card's probably pretty okay. Okay, we'll just move on from that really quickly. X, Eradicate, Retain, deal 11 damage X times. The fact that this retains is really good, and it works nicely with some other cards in the kit that we'll get to. Retain in general just lets you hold your card for when they're best. So you can spend all your energy blocking, and then when the enemy gives you a downturn to sort of go in, you get to pump all your energy into this and do a lot of damage. And I think this character really struggles with doing lots of burst damage, and this sort of is just that. Retain keyword, really, really good. It's basically incredibly buff skewer. It's a rare though, so can't put it super high. I think I'll throw it in top of B for now. Again, I wouldn't be upset if you called this A. The rarity of the card bumps it down for sure. It makes it harder to justify. If this is like an uncommon, of course, it's just going straight into like S or A. But yeah, being seen against other rare cards, like if I see this against Domain, I don't know how to say it anymore. I've convinced myself. Neurosurge, Banshee's Cry, whatever, Devour Life, like all these other things, I probably don't want to click it as readily. Yeah, it feels about right looking at these other rares. If I see it against them, I don't want it, but that's not the only time you see it. It's just the most often time you do. Okay, Fear. Ethereal, deal 7 damage, apply 1 vulnerable. Okay, I just played around with this card. It felt kind of whatever. Debuffs are good in general, so maybe we throw this at bottom of B. I think it's a little bit better than some of these other cards here. Again, Ethereal keyword is good, can turn on your Banshee's Cry, and also have other synergies. This upgrades to 2 vulnerable as well, and I don't think this character... I think it has like one other way to get vulnerable on the enemy, and this at Colin rarity is like not so bad. Yeah, probably bottom of B, maybe C. I don't feel super strongly about it. Again, a lot of these cards that I don't feel like are complete crap, probably just going to end up somewhere in this zone right here. Okay. Fetch. Asti deals 3 damage. If this is the first time this card has been played this turn, draw 1 card, 0 energy. This is just like FTL basically, except doesn't turn off when you draw a bunch of cards. So always does the thing. I think this is like very easily A tier. It's just free damage. There's some Asti attack trigger combo things I don't think are super relevant, but can do stuff. And in general, free damage is not a bad thing. It helps you against the like statue in Act 1 just to stack slow stacks and then kill a little bit easier. And I think that's one of the more threatening enemies for this enemy. So yeah, free damage. It's just, you don't really ever get punished for this. There's like a handful of enemies that do, but for the most part, you can just click it and never feel bad about it. Not much to say. Flatten. 2 energy. Asti deals 12 damage. This card costs 0 energy if Asti has attacked this turn. Again, this is sort of what I was just talking about with the Asti attack package. I don't think this happens very often, to be honest. It's like desperation damage. I think this is very easily just like C tier. I think it's on the lower end of what seems pickable. Just the 2 energy cost. In the bad draw order, if you brick this is just a very mediocre card. Obviously it has high highs, but I don't see it really working very often. You have 1 card in your starter deck that says Asti attacks. If it doesn't line up with that, it's pretty bad. And I don't really pick the other Asti attack cards very often. Maybe you have Fetch, and that's your first card, and you get Fetch into Flatten. Sure, that's your damage for the act, but feels a little awkward. Okay, Forbidden Grimoire. At the end of combat, you may remove a card from your deck. Eternal, 2 energy. This is a power that only comes from an Ancient. Is obviously extremely strong card. It's why it's boss relic. So we just throw this straight into S tier here. Removing cards from your deck is completely broken. Just go infinite. That's it. Okay. Friendship, lose 2 strength, gain 1 energy at the start of each turn, 1 energy power. The 2 strength downside does not matter. As mentioned earlier, the Asti synergies get around this. So I think I'm throwing this in at bottom of S tier, maybe A, but yeah, very solid. It's basically just 1 energy for free. Most of my damage has never come from physical damage on my character itself. If it does, it's like Banshee's Cry, which is 33 damage. And if that goes to 31, I don't care. The upgrade makes it go to 1 strength, but again, most of the time this is not a downside at all. You're not relying on physical damage from your character. Asti is the one dealing the damage, or you have damage through Doom or some other effect like Capture Soul, Capture Spirit, or whatever. That just makes the enemy lose HP. So I'm not really worried about this card inflicting this debuff on me whatsoever. Okay, Glimpse Beyond. This is a multiplayer card, so we're not going to go into it. Let's move straight to Grave Blast. 1 energy, deal 4 damage, put a card from your discard pile into your hand, exhaust. This is basically damage, but hologram instead of block hologram. It's just C tier. I don't think I care about this at all. I've never felt the need to pick this. If you draw it on turn 1, like, I just never really want it, and it feels like it's just clogging up your deck more than anything. Blocking from hologram is a better effect, and I feel like I already don't love hologram a lot. There's a lot of people that really, really like it, but I'd rather just sit around and block. I think if you just make your deck small and you just add the block cards, then you probably don't care about ever drawing this and playing it on something. I don't know what core card you're trying to pull back, like, almost ever here. So I'll throw it in C. I could see myself underrating this and coming around on it later just because the effect does do something good, but it hasn't felt like I've ever really struggled for draw consistency on this character or for lining up anything. Obviously, some enemies in Act 1 add statuses into your deck, and this is some consistency there, but I've been able to play through most of those things. So you'll see if this changes over time. I could definitely see this being a speculative B or whatever, but yeah, I don't feel strongly. Okay, Grave Warden. Gain 8 block, add a soul into your draw pile. 1 energy. 8 block on this that also draws 2 is ridiculous. And it's a common. Yeah, it upgrades to Soul Plus, which is draw 3, and 10 block, which is just a disgusting upgrade. So just throw it in A tier. Yeah, really, really gross card. I don't know. All these block commons, again, you can probably start to see whenever I put a block common. It's really good. You just notice the number of them and how many like times you can just pick like 4 block cards and never take damage in hallways. It's very, very easy to do that. You just farm all the hallways. You'll eventually see the good cards because you picked all these and you didn't take any damage. And then you can run into elites because you saw the good cards. And if you don't, well, your card quality is really, really high. And that's the end of it. Okay. Hang, 1 energy, deal 10 damage. Double the damage all hang cards deal to the enemy. This is claw, but good. I hate to say it. We'll throw this in A tier. I think this character often can struggle to actually deal damage to bosses. So this is sort of a 1 card solve for boss damage. And it's not even bad in hallways. 10 damage on itself is very respectable for having a massive upside of just sort of completely winning a bunch of problematic fights. I feel like that's one of the only things I've really struggled for on this character is just being able to end fights. If you cannot stabilize the fight and block a ton and make Asti's HP go up really high, your damage is going to struggle if you're not adding some sort of other additional solve into your deck. And this feels like one of the things that you just add and it fixes the problem, and you can just focus entirely on blocking, and then you're going to kill the enemy. Yeah, pretty cool card. Obviously it's rare, so you know you're not going to see it very often, but very interesting nonetheless. Okay, Haunt. 1 energy. Whenever you play a soul, a random enemy loses 6 HP. It's a power. This is going in A tier. I think this has been a infinite loop payoff for a little bit, but even if it's not an infinite loop payoff, then you're still doing quite a bit of damage from this, and it just sort of rewards you for doing something you wanted to do anyways. I don't think this is as an infinite payoff is actually really needed. Most of the time you can sort of just like all the things that go infinite, like the Capture Spirit and the Dirge, provide some way to do infinite with the starter deck. Capture Spirit obviously does it on its own, and Dirge does it with your starter card, so it's not really needed for that reason, but it is like high output and actually gets you through quite a bit of fights if you have maybe like 1 Capture Soul in your deck. Like play Capture Soul and it does 18 damage is a pretty good payoff for having to play this thing once. And again, if all your cards say block on them, it's a lot harder to brick. That is one of the main differences between this character and something like Regents, who doesn't really have a lot of good block commons. You'll notice Regents, like one of their best block commons is just 7 block, gain 1 star for 1 energy. And how are you competing with Defy, or Grave Warden on this character, right? They just seem completely outclassed. And that's probably by design, but I think it's a little bit too skewed currently. Okay, high 5, 2 energy. Aussie deals 11 damage and applies 2 vulnerable to all enemies. I don't really care about vulnerable that much on this character. The 2 energy cost is a little high. It's AoE, but not great AoE. I'll put this at bottom of B tier. Maybe it deserves to be in C. It's just kind of whatever. Again, doesn't evoke strong emotions for me, so I feel like it's probably just middle of the pack somewhere in here. Again, not gonna be mad if someone says it should be in C, or if someone thinks it should be in B very confidently. It's just kind of somewhere in here. Okay, invoke, next turn summon 2 and gain 2 energy. 1 energy to play this. This is essentially outmaneuver, but a little bit better. And I think it's quite good. The upgrade is summon 3 energy. Maybe I'll put this at top of B, or maybe bottom of A. But again, if you're just blocking, you can sort of play excess block and then play invoke, and then next turn you just block more and gain energy to keep excess blocking and scale up Asti. Like, this character actually does benefit from having extra energy and extra block more than any other character, because you have Barricade Body Slam built into the deck. I think this is I think Inspire 1 something like this is very hard to take because the Gremlin Knob exists and kills you for taking something like this, but I don't feel like I've ever really been pressured for having this in my deck, or pressured for having like one card I have to draw into in my deck. And your fights are generally just going long, so making energy and blocking extra is just always going to be a good effect. You can sort of just make a bunch of energy, have some souls, take 1 setup turn, and then the next turn you just go in like crazy and basically win the fight on the spot. So again, when everything is a block card, it's a lot easier to add these sorts of cards to your deck. And when fights go longer, also a lot easier. Okay, Legion of Bone is another multiplayer card. Not going to go into it. Okay, Lethality, 1 energy, Ethereal. Again, don't know why that exists. The first attack each turn deals 50% additional damage. This is a very good card. Oftentimes, you are only playing 1 attack anyways. You're just playing the starter card that deals damage based on Austi's HP. And making that 50% stronger is a huge deal. Also combos really nicely with Retain and Hang as well. So the Eradicate, the Giga Skewer that retains, this is a really, really sick combo with it. You can stack Lethalities. They stack additively, not multiplicatively. So if you have 2 of them, it'll be 100% additional damage, so double. You'll not get like a weird in-between number. But yeah, not much to say. Just really good option for increasing your damage. Doesn't have to apply a debuff on the enemy, so if they have Artifact, it still works. Just really, really solid. Okay, Melancholy, 3 energy, gain 13 block, reduce this card's cost by 1 energy whenever anyone dies. Mostly this is Asti dying, especially in single target fights, but in multi-target fights, enemies dying can reduce this as well. Pretty solid card. I don't think this is like A tier, but I'll throw it like top of B. You can do something cool like having Asti die from Bone Shards, for example, and then play Melancholy for cheaper. You can sort of do these sorts of loops where you play this, eventually discount your Melancholy to cost 0, and it's just a 0 energy 13 block card. That's very cool. Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, Misery, 0 energy, deal 7 damage, apply any debuffs on the enemy to all other characters. Crazy card. It's going in A. I don't know exactly where. I don't feel super strongly about if it goes in the top or the bottom, but 7 damage for free, and then also transferring the Doom on 1 enemy to all other enemies, and transferring weakness and enfeebling touch strength down to all other enemy characters is really, really cool. I may be overrating this card slightly. I could see it just being in B. But yeah, you have Defy and Weak, and then you just make every enemy weak, and then no one does any damage to you, and it's free damage, and you can never not play it. It's just really sick. It's probably a card that feels better than it actually is, and it might go down over time. It's a weird card to me as well, Zach. But I think it's somewhere in A or high B. It's, again, I don't feel strongly about it being like top of A or bottom of A or whatever, but I've had this really, really pop off. Okay. Necro Mastery, summon 5, 2 energy. Whenever Asti loses HP, all enemies lose that much HP as well. This is a weird power. It's like rare and can do some like weird AoE stuff. It's a little expensive for AoE, but you do sit in fights for a while, so it can do something. I think we throw it in B, like bottom of B. I've never had this like really pop off. Notably doesn't work with something like Bone Shards that kills Asti. You have to actually have them take damage. But it does something. It's just very strange. Yeah, I haven't had it really pop off, but AoE damage, especially early game when this is going to be actually really useful, is never going to be like super, super low here. Okay. Negative pulse, 1 energy, gain 5 block, apply 7 doom to all enemies. This is another block common. This upgrades to 7 block 11 doom, which tell me why any card needs to do 7 block 11 AoE damage for 1 energy at common rarity. I don't know. This is an A tier card, at least for me. Some of the other cards like Defy, I'm like way more happy to see this, so it's definitely not going like up to a huge amount here, but a lot of these block combos are just so strong. It doesn't really matter what you think is stronger than the other. They're just all really strong. Like, they're all insane. So it definitely goes somewhere in A. I don't know where. Okay. No escape, 1 energy. Apply 10 doom plus an additional 5 doom for every 10 doom already on the enemy. A skill. This is an uncommon that kills bosses. So it's pretty similar to something like where is it? Can't remember. Hang. It is a little bit weird. It's not AoE, so in some fights it's a little strange. It's not good front load. Like 10 doom for 1 is not a great rate when you can imagine that at common rarity you play negative pulse and it blocks 7 and gives 11 doom, and even unupgraded it does 7 doom to all. So it's a pretty awkward card except for that one exact purpose. But again, this character, that is kind of the thing it struggles with the most, it feels like. So having this just to solve bosses is not bad. And I think STS Player is one of those games in general where you sort of have these like idea of tech cards. I think from people like that play TCGs, they might understand this, of like one card that like solves a matchup, right? STS Player, it's often worth carrying this one card to solve a matchup. And this seems like just one that solves a little bit more than one matchup. It's like, okay, I don't think it's busted or anything, but if you need it to kill a boss, it's gonna kill the boss, and that's good enough for me. Okay, Oblivion, 0 energy skill. Whenever you play a card this turn, apply 3 doom to the enemy. I don't think this is very good. This is probably just C or D, unless I'm missing something. Like, you can apply with souls or something, but there just seems other ways to get damage. This is like, imagine you play Haunt and you play a bunch of souls and enemies lose 6 HP. Or you can play Oblivion and the enemy loses 3 HP, but it doesn't actually kill them until next turn. And it's not a power. Just feels really weird. I don't think it's quite as bad as Dance Macabre, but it feels very strange to me. Yeah, there's just other ways to do like the things that you're trying to do with this, and I don't think having a large amount of doom is often very relevant. The only thing is the no escape, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it just doesn't feel like it really does it. It's just like one of the worst payoffs, but again, you can pick it if you need it. It does the thing that you need it to do if that's what you're missing, and it has a use. It's not D tier. Page Storm, whenever you draw an ethereal card, draw 1 card, 1 energy power, it upgrades to 0 cost. This thing is just broken. Every time I've had this, it just fills my hand. I don't exactly know how to explain how often this draws, because like you would think, oh, it only works at the ethereal cards in my deck, which one, you already add all of them anyways. A lot of these things are just ethereal on them regardless. But then the enemies can add dazes to your deck, so like the Beekeeper in Act 2, which to be fair is not usually that hard, but a good example of a fight that will add a bunch of dazes, and I'm blanking on some other ones, but you will just draw a full hand. And adding draw to a lot of cards in your deck just makes this insane. Like, you will just constantly have full hands no matter what, and it upgrades to 0 cost in a game that is usually starved for energy. That is very easy to carry around and just play in some random fight, and often leads to you just drawing your Defy more frequently, which means you always have weak on the enemy, which means you never take damage, which means Aussie HP go up, which means your damage actually happens. There's a lot of chain reaction things like that. I know that was a mouthful, but there's a lot of reasons why this sort of consistency is good on this character, and the fights go long. You'll get value out of this. You're not ending fights immediately almost ever. Even when I think there's a boss relic that plays a card automatically as a start of combat, and I had this on an end of days, so it play 29 doom to all enemies, kill enemies with the least much doom as HP, and a lot of fights in Act 2 did not end immediately. So even for playing this for free right away, I'm still having to play the fights long, and that just goes to show, even when you have some crazy front load option like this, that the fights still go long enough that you probably want this in your deck. Okay, Parse, Ethereal, 1 energy, draw 3 cards. This is a card that I feel like is one of the harder ones to actually take early. Obviously, drawing 3 cards with Ethereal keyword on it is quite good. It's just skim. But it feels like it's one of the harder ones to actually justify clicking early when I can click something like Grave Warden that adds basically a card that does a very similar thing and blocks. It's just a little bit delayed. So it's burst draw, but a lot of times I don't feel like I really need burst draw because I will just have souls for that. Yeah, a little strange, but I obviously can't put this any lower than like B. It's just a good rate to draw cards. It would just be nice if it was stapled along with a block effect so I could pick it earlier. If you have the energy to play this, you will know it's very good very clearly. Okay. Poke. Aussie deals 6 damage, 0 energy. This is one of the commons that I think you can click earlier that bridges you into some sort of Aussie synergy package, but very, very awkwardly, and oftentimes I don't feel like I need this. 0 energy deals 6, just lets you deal damage while you're blocking, and oftentimes this character wants to put every point of energy it has into block. So it does do something. I think it's just going straight into B tier here. That's about it. Okay. Protector, 1 energy, Aussie deals 10 damage, deals additional damage equal to Aussie's max HP. I have only been offered this once and didn't end up clicking it because I think I had a much more broken option. Dealing damage equal to Aussie max HP is notably very different from dealing damage compared to his current HP. So if you make Aussie really big and he takes a lot of damage, you still end up having this like big loop payoff card. I think this upgrade's really sick. I can't remember what it does. I think it's 0 energy, deal 15. If I remember correctly. So pretty ridiculous card, but oftentimes I feel like because it's up against boss relics, I don't feel like it's that crazy. I've heard people glaze this, so I'm gonna throw it in S tier anyways, just because obviously in a vacuum this is like a disgusting card, but I would say that you do need to think about the fact that it is up against really, really good stuff. And so is it better than those things? I don't necessarily know. I would need to play with this more. I don't know if the opportunity cost is enough to bump it down to A, but it's definitely one of those things that I'm not 100% sure on yet. Okay. Pull aggro, 2 energy, skill, summon 4, gain 7 block. This is a decent block card. It just says block 11 basically, but some of that block carries over to next turn. This is probably just like bottom of B tier for me. It's like a lot of the block commons I feel like are just more solid and a better rate for paying energy into, but if I see this on like floor 1, I'm not really upset to just take it. Like I'll just take the first block card that's even remotely pickable and it just will do something. Yeah, Zek says an honest card. It just does the thing. It's not broken, but it's not terrible either. Like oftentimes you will be able to keep some of this summon HP around next turn and it will start to scale your damage and it does something, but just not great. The upgrade's pretty solid, but oftentimes I feel like there's just better options. Okay, let me drink some water really quick. Pull from below, 1 energy, attack, deal 5 damage for each ethereal card played this combat. I think this rate is really bad. Again, it can kill bosses, but I think when you're playing this many ethereal cards, probably they're all really good and you've already won. It can scale your damage if you're really desperate, but I think it just goes in like top of C or something. Notably, souls do not scale this because they say exhaust, not ethereal. So if you were thinking that, it's not really how it works. It's just slow scaling damage. There are better options, but if you have a lot of ethereal stuff in your deck, it can do things and it kills bosses. So it's not a never pick card, but I don't think it's like something I really want to have in my deck. I don't know what critical mass I would need of ethereal cards to really be happy to put this like early into the game. Maybe like 3 or something. Again, fights go long, so it's possible that this does eventually scale into something, but Austie scales in your starting deck. So that's it. I don't really feel the need to justify that much more. Okay, Putrefy, 1 energy, applied 2 weak, applied 2 vulnerable, exhaust. This upgrades to 3 of both debuffs. Yeah, this card is really, really sick. Debuffs are just good. I don't think I need to explain anymore. We've been talking about how weakness sort of invalidates a lot of the enemies in this game, and you just block everything. Yeah, weak the enemies, GG. Okay, Rattle, 1 energy, Aussie deals 7 damage, hits an additional time for each other time he has attacked this turn. This is a weird card. Again, I feel like it just goes in C. It's very hard to often get payoff for this. I think you just don't really want to have like a bunch of cards where Austie's attacking. It just doesn't feel like it's going to do very much. Best case, it's like often deal 14 damage for 1, which is a good rate, but Devile exists and says ethereal for 13 with no condition. So I don't know, you're gonna have like 3 Aussie attacks in one hand, which just sounds like a complete pipe dream to me. Okay. Reanimate, 3 energy, summon 20, exhaust. This is like impervious if it blocked less and it costed more, but you can carry the block over. So it's like impervious, but I have calibers, if you're familiar with the first game. It says a big number on it and does scale some stuff. So I'd probably just throw this into B. Like, it's really middle of the pack. This is like pretty honest as well. Like, again, scaling the block over to another turn is a really strong effect, but you're often not doing anything else on this turn to actually keep the block. If you have ways to, especially in Act 2 after you know you're ancient already, if you have ways to have more energy, or you have ways to make sure that you're carrying over a lot of this block or convert it immediately into damage, then it's going to be better. But I think like early game, of course, it just gets in because the number is big, but yeah, it's just not amazing. It just does what it needs to. Okay, Reap. Retain, deal 27 damage, 3 energy. This is just retaining attack that deals a bunch of damage. Not much more to say about it. This is probably like bottom of B. It's an attack that you take to kill stuff in Act 1. The eels notably need a lot of damage dealt to them to get through the shield all at once. Scales well with like Vuln or something. And retains. So even if you don't want to play it in the fight, you draw it once, you never draw it again, and you're okay to have it, I think. It's not a great card. It's definitely like bottom of B. It's just not ridiculous, but retain is a really, really strong keyword, if you'll notice. And kill stuff when you need it to. The number is just big enough that it sort of just works. Okay. Reaper form. This is one of the form cards that all the characters have. 3 energy, power. Whenever attacks deal damage, they also apply that much doom. This basically just says double your damage. This is pretty solid. I think it's either top of A or bottom of S. It's pretty expensive, but overall, like, doubling your damage is just good. You just get out of the fights a lot faster, especially early game against bosses and stuff. This is going to do a whole lot. And it's oftentimes not that hard to play. Again, the enemy's like weak, or you have some sort of thing that lets you play it. It's not awful. I think it's probably A. I think in hallways it's probably pretty bad, but in bosses it's just going to do really, really well. I'll throw this a little bit here. Yeah. Okay. Reeve. Deal 9 damage, add a soul into your draw pile. This is like kind of like Pommel Strike, but delayed. It's pretty fair. It's just an honest damage common. You're gonna see a lot of stuff like here. It just does the thing. Sure. Okay, right hand, 0 energy. Asti deals 4 damage. Whenever you play a card that costs 2 or more, return this to your hand from the discard pile. Really strange. I don't know exactly how often you really want this. Like at the first draw, this is just really not a good card. It's like 4 damage, and then how often am I really looping a card that costs 2 or more? I just don't get it. Like I don't think I ever really have the pieces for this to ever be good, so it's probably just in C. Not a completely unplayable card by any means. Like if I transform into it, maybe it can do something. It just feels really weird. Okay, Sacrifice. This is a strange card. 1 energy, retain. If Asti is alive, he dies and you gain block equal to double his max HP. So this is best when your Asti has an amount of HP and some of it has been taken away. I'm going to throw this into B. This is definitely one of the cards I feel weirdest about. In early game, it's just bad. But the fact that it has retain on it means it will do the thing when you need it to, and it upgrades to 0 energy. I think this is not awful. It's just like a lot of block on like a turn 2-3 or something. But it's definitely really weird early. I don't want this in the deck until at least like Act 2-3, and I'm like already sort of making Asti HP. It just means that you can play like Sacrifice to block a lot, and then you play like Dirge, and you're allowed to dump all your energy into Dirge. So you need some sort of payoff after this. Like it can let you play a big power. Maybe if you have like a Demesne or whatever, Domain, or like a Reaper form or whatever, and you really just want to play your power, this sort of lets you get it into play, right? Like if you never find energy throughout the run and this costs 0 and you just want to play your 3 energy cards sometimes, it retains. It'll let you do it. So it's going to give you 1 turn that's going to let you do something like Reanimate, for example. Sacrifice into Reanimate, cost 3 energy, can be pretty cool. I don't think that like this is going to play early game. So I had this today and it started performing really hard in Act 3 plus to actually let me set up. I just think that there's a lot of other ways that you can get set up a lot easier. without this, and you often don't need it. Like if the enemy is weak or you just make a ton of block, like it just doesn't really do a whole lot, but it can do something. So yeah, B seems pretty fair. Maybe closer towards the bottom. But I do think that maybe people are sleeping on this card a little bit. It's just not good early. Okay, Scourge, 1 energy, deal or apply 13 doom. Sorry, it's a skill, and draw 1 card. This upgrades to 16 doom, draw 2. And the doom cards, you'll notice like the numbers on them sound really, really high because they just are. But doom is delayed by a turn and it's not blocking. However, it does do quite a bit of damage. And gets through things like the I don't know what they're called, but the void monsters in Act 1 that block the first hit of damage, Vantum, as well as the Lagavulin and things like that. It lets you stack up some damage early, and works with some Doom synergies. The fact that it draws makes it kind of decent. So it's probably just going somewhere in B tier. Again, just sort of a damage common. It's fine. I don't think it's anything like ridiculous at all, but it's definitely not bad. Okay, Sculpting Strike, deal 8 damage, add ethereal to a card in your hand. This feels really weird to me. I haven't found like a really broken use for this yet. The damage number is just not very high, and ethereal to something in your hand just doesn't really work with like Page Stormer things. How often you want to make something ethereal really depends on like the powers you have to take advantage of it. Or if you're just trying to exhaust stuff, it can do it. There's just way better ways to exhaust, like exhausting from your draw pile instead of what's in your hand. Just really weird card. Seance. 0 energy, ethereal, transform a card in your draw pile into soul. What the hell is this card, man? This is so stupid. Every time I've had this thing, it's just like immediately infinite. It says ethereal on it for absolutely no reason, because you can just always play it no matter what, and it just works with extra synergies. Sometimes it draws more with Page Storm, sometimes it blocks with other powers. Like, I just don't get this thing, man. It's gross. Transforming a card in your draw pile that's bad into a draw 2 0 energy card is just disgusting. And the fact that it costs 0 means that you just loop this thing over and over and over. It makes you go infinite really, really quick. And yeah, it's just gross. You can play it while your deck is empty, so you don't actually even lose it. When you're done exhausting, it just exhausts itself, which is something that not a lot of exhaust cards do, which is just ridiculous. I don't know why this thing is in the game. It just is such an enabler for some really degenerate strategies. Sentry Mode, 2 energy. At the start of your turn, add 1 Sweeping Gaze in your hand. Sweeping Gaze is a card that says, I believe 0 energy, Asti deals 10 damage to something. This will somewhat kill a boss, but I think it's pretty bad at doing that as far as things are concerned. I've picked this a couple times. I just think there's way, way better ways. Thank you for the sub, by the way. Appreciate it. But you have something like Countdown that's just like doing this but costs less and works with Doom synergies and is way easier to put into play. I just don't really see why this thing's rare. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, unless I'm missing something, this card just seems like kind of awful. Okay, Severance. Deal 13 damage, add a soul into your draw pile, hand, and discard pile. 2 energy. So this is kind of like a wheel kick that adds extra draw outside of that. I think it's pretty solid as far as damage is concerned, but the real thing is that it makes a bunch of souls. So if you have soul synergies, it's going to do something. Just throw it somewhere in B tier, higher up. I often don't really need the attack part of this card, and there's cheaper ways to make souls, but it can do something. Like you have an upgraded, where is it? Borrowed Time. Makes 2 energy, so you can do like Severance, Borrowed Time, play the soul, draw into another soul, draw into Borrowed Time, draw into Severance, play the thing, loop, 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 infinite, go GG, you know? It's just kind of gross. That synergy alone is one of the worst ways to do that sort of thing, but even just adding the draw into your hand and letting you draw into future stuff is kind of okay. Like, there's a lot of cards that just add souls into your draw pile, so you cannot capitalize until next turn. And you'll sort of notice this character just wants to block and wait around for next turn so that it can take advantage of all these things that it does after it's set up. This is one of the few cards that actually lets you go in like the turn you play it. So I think it gets some merit for that. I don't think it's often something you really need. So it's definitely not going in A. It's going alongside these other cards that are kind of like situationally useful that solve a problem that maybe you have. Okay, Shared Fate. 0 energy, skill, lose 2 strength, enemy loses 2 strength, exhaust. Again, this 2 strength downside just does not do anything. It's like the downside itself on you just doesn't affect you at all. This just says enemy loses 2 strength. It's basically just a 0 cost disarm. I think this goes straight into A tier. I've not even really had this card, but looking at it, just cannot imagine how this is a bad thing at all. Especially when something like Friendship is so strong as is, and it just makes your block output go up by quite a lot. I will say that there's less enemies that the strength down matters this much in. I think Queen is one of them. The Beekeeper, but again, you don't really struggle there a whole lot anyways. Some enemies multi-attack. There's not a whole lot compared to Spire 1. But Spire 1 had like the hardest enemy in the game and the second hardest one, both multi-attacking, so this sort of effect was very good. I think until we understand exactly what is super threatening in the game, maybe this is not something I really care about drawing into. And early game can be a little clunky. Strength on strikes actually does matter in early games. That's something just to think about. I think after you're like partway through Act 1 and have a bunch of other cards, then you probably just don't care about the downside. But yeah, don't forget about it. Okay. Shroud, whenever you apply Doom, gain 2 block. This upgrades to 3 block, I believe. I think this is like pretty solid top of B tier, maybe A tier. I wouldn't feel bad about it either way. You don't apply as much Doom as you can do some other things, but just like randomly getting block from like your negative pulse or something can be quite strong. So it sort of just depends on what you have in the deck. There's just oftentimes less times that you have a ton of Doom cards, and it's more often that you're doing like, I don't know, just weaken the enemy with your block common or add a soul to your deck, it feels like. But again, this character, it feels like all of the packages sort of work. There doesn't feel to me like any single package on this character that's just like completely useless like the other characters. It feels like everything is more cohesive. So sometimes you're just going to have a deck that has primarily a lot of Doom cards, and then this is going to be obviously very good. But I think that is probably the least frequent case, is that you're spamming Doom. Most of the time you have like one big Doom card, I would say. And that's going to happen more frequently. This is just not going to block as much, but it's definitely a thing that can happen. I think, yeah, the Aussie attack package is definitely the worst, I think, out of them. But a lot of those cards just sort of work without Aussie having to do something. There's a few that are just kind of clunky and awkward, like this, right? Rattle, but I think like the fact that there's only a handful of these cards, and on their own, like Poke is not a bad card, and it does have some interaction with like, you can't take strength off of Aussie, and you can't have Aussie be weakened. Like that sort of thing is definitely interesting. And I think it's a design space worth exploring. Okay, Sikkim, 1 energy, Aussie deals 5 damage whenever Aussie hits this enemy this turn, summon 2. Again, another weird attack package thing, as we're talking about how the attack packages don't seem to actually work. This is 1 energy. It just doesn't do enough. I think, like, how often are you really going to abuse this? I've never had a run where this happened. Maybe someone has. I would maybe ask Zeknar if that's the case, but yeah, I've never really felt like I needed this. It just feels like kind of the weakest package by quite a lot, and needs like the best draw orders to actually do the thing for the least amount of payoff. Okay. Sight of Flesh. Whenever you apply a debuff to an enemy, they take 9 damage, 2 energy. Again, this kills bosses. It might look really bad, but I think in functionality and how this thing actually plays and how Necro actually plays, this is probably just somewhere in B tier. It's an expensive power, but it is sort of AoE, and there's a lot of random things that just like AoE the whole enemy team. You have a freaking block common that does it. Like you just have negative pulse. Like, why does that do that? It's very strange, right? So you have like negative pulse and this, or you have like Deathbringer. There's some cards that work with this really nicely, and notably, Doom is a status condition, so it's gonna play off of that as well. Okay, Snap. 1 energy, Aussie deals 7 damage, add Retain to a card in your hand. This feels a little awkward. Retain is a very good keyword, but I think the 7 damage is not what you want to do with this. When you want to retain something, you often want to do it while you're blocking, not while you're dealing damage. So it's probably going in C tier to me. Maybe I can move it up to B, but the damage number itself is just really low. If this number was higher, the secondary effect would just be worth it, but this number is just not high enough to justify, I think. Okay, Soulstorm. 1... For an attack, deals 9 damage, deals 2 additional damage for each soul in your exhaust pile. The fact that it does 9 without any work is already pretty good. I think we throw this in like top of B tier maybe. Again, it's like a boss killing card alongside these other ones that sort of just kill bosses, where this is like the character just struggles to kill them. If you make souls and you don't have any payoff, this can do it. It's just one of the weirder payoffs, but it's one of the easier ones to just pick before you even have soul stuff at all, because it just deals 9 damage. So if you don't have like a lot of souls, like let's say you just have the block common that does it, and it only makes 1 soul, the Grave Warden, this will very slowly scale, and it's like pickable relatively, even with just the Grave Warden. The second you see anything else, it's going to be a lot bigger and just actually kill the boss. So it's one of those bridge cards. Of course, it's a rare card, so it's a little less likely it gets in the deck like that. Oftentimes when you have a bunch of souls happening, you have some other sort of payoff like Haunt, or some sort of true infinite thing. But if you're not actually infinite and you're just making a lot of souls and you have energy generation, I think this is one of those payoffs that you can loop. Notably, souls do lend themselves to wanting to loop attacks. So even if you don't have energy, if your attacks do 50 damage every time you draw them, and you can draw it and play it 3 times a turn, that's probably going to win every fight. So I think this is like pretty decent in terms of a B tier card, but definitely not like insanely strong or anything. Okay, so 1 energy, retain, deal 8 damage to all enemies. This is cleave that retains. Retain is a very good keyword. Early game, this is just kind of what you need sometimes. I don't know if I throw this in A tier. I don't think so. I don't think it's good enough. Let's start in B maybe. You just need to have AoE in this game. It's a very solid Act 1 pick, yeah. And it retains. So again, you can always use it to turn into helpful. Otherwise you just block, but it's quite solid. Again, there's not much text on this card, so I don't think we need to talk about it very much, but it's just cleave that retains. AoE damage is good, retain is good. Those two things together, just kind of nice. Okay, Spirit of Ash, whenever you play an Ethereal card, gain 4 block. What is this card? This is just Mental Fortress, but like, again, Ethereal is like so easy to get. All your cards contain Ethereal on them. If you get this early game with something like Defy is just blocking like 25. It's just disgusting. I don't get it. I think oftentimes maybe you don't have that many Ethereal cards, but the fact that it probably procs at least once a turn, if not more than once a turn, most of the time just off of this character just having Ethereal stuff means it's just better metallicized, and the ceiling of it's really, really blocking 1,000,000 every turn is also a thing. So the floor is just really low because everything on this character seems to just have Ethereal that's good. And yeah, just does quite a lot. Okay. Spur, retain, summon 3, 1 energy, Asti heals 5 HP. So this essentially says like block 3 on it, retain, and in good cases it blocks 8. Healing Asti for 8 is a really solid card, and retain, again, really solid keyword, means that you always have this when you need it. So if you're trying to make a big Asti, this can heal him back up, and that increases your damage that you're able to deal. You never really have this be like a super dead card in your hand, because if anything, you just have it retain. The upgrade's quite solid. I think it goes to 5 and 7, so 12 for that effect is like Barricade Block. 12 Barricade Block is just really good for 1 energy. Yeah, let's throw this in A. Bottom of A, though, it's definitely not like a crazy card, but it can do a lot. The numbers are just good on it. Okay. Squeeze. Asti deals 25 damage, deals 5 additional damage for all your other Asti attacks. Again, this is the package that's really weird. I've never felt like I wanted this. I'm going to throw it in C. Maybe one day I'll have this Asti build that pops off. It just feels like the bridge cards are just not strong enough. If the common attacks that make Asti deal damage are much better, then maybe this gets better. If attacking in general gets better, sure, but right now blocking just seems to be much stronger. It can deal a lot of damage, but again, it's just why. Okay, the Scythe. 2 energy, deal 13 damage, permanently increase this card's damage by 3 exhaust. This is going in S tier. Crazy card. With the caveat that you need to have it early. Meta-scaling this game is just really strong. I think anyone that has played Spire 1 for a long time will know this. Again, this character is the character that wants to play fights the longest. Suddenly you have a card that will just do 30-40 damage and kill an enemy outright, which lets you stabilize the fight and block it for the rest of it. When you have fights that pressure you early, having front load like this is really important. So this is a card that just front loads. It doesn't even need to kill like it would be like a Ritual Dagger or whatever from Spire 1. You don't have it or need to have it be lethal, so you can just play it whenever you draw it. It's very good if you get it relatively early, like even end of Act 1 or inside of Act 1. It's going to be insane. The damage number just gets out of control really fast. I will say that if you have this, you probably want to be running into a lot of hallway fights, but you probably want it to be doing that anyways, regardless of the fact, since you're just blocking them all anyways. I do think inside of Act 1 you still need to be a little bit careful about advanced hallways that can kill you. But if you're able to farm fights, this just makes them continue to get easier as they go on. The enemies just won't have enough HP to survive this thing, and it will sort of snowball out of control and let you just pick all the good cards. It can make you feel really strong and bait you into thinking you can kill bosses. Just don't get baited by it. It's just front load. You still need to solve your scaling. But again, this tech card, it's like something that solves hallways and you have something that solves bosses, is just really strong. Okay, time's up. 2, deal damage equal to the enemy's Doom exhaust. For 2, I don't really love this. I feel like it's pretty hard to combo with something that adds a lot of Doom onto the enemy. However, it does sort of just like multiply your damage and can kill a boss. So I think, again, we throw this with all the other stuff that does a similar role. You pick it for like a 1 card solve and on some fights, and you just end up, you know, killing the enemy with it. I don't actually know what this upgrade does, but even just at 2 energy, it's got to be like pretty okay for doing that. It's just not amazing or anything. Okay. Transfigure, 1 energy, add replay to a card in your hand. It costs an extra energy, exhaust. Replay is a very, very strong word to add to a card. It feels more often than not that you can do that. However, this is something that, like, on 3 energy, you're going to have to play on something that also costs 1 energy, and then you get to play that thing twice. So you've basically played a 1 energy card twice for 3 energy. With the addition of making it stronger throughout the rest of the fight, it's a little weird. I haven't really had this thing, like, really pop off yet. Yeah, if you can put it on Dirge, which is an X-Cost card, it goes insane. But that, to me, feels like the high roll scenario. I'm just going to throw this in top of C right now. It feels like if you have a Dirge thing happening already, you're probably okay. It just doesn't... I don't know. It's very situational when it works, and it has to line up in the hand with the thing. I think you're going to notice that a lot of these lists are always going to just penalize cards that need to have these miracle draw orders happen, because they just don't happen enough. Again, this character can line them up very often, but the payoff doesn't feel like that insane. You need to have it on certain specific cards. So not only do you need to have those cards in your deck, and it's not really worth speculating on this card, you also need to line it up. So it can do something really insane. There's definitely times where this is like an S tier card, and that's most things in like C and B tier can be like insane. But really, when we're talking about these lists, we're talking about like consistently, how often do I want these cards, and it doesn't feel like you want it very consistently. Okay, Undeath, 0 energy, gain 7 block, add a copy of this card into your discard pile. You can do things with this with like Seance or something. It's a little weird, but it does just like block the enemies. I think I'm gonna throw this into B. You probably want to have some sort of targeted exhaust before it gets really out of hand, and starts cloning itself, and you just only draw these every turn. You're just not gonna be able to make fight progress, and things will punish you for doing that. It's decent front load block, but like fights go really long on this character. You want some way to keep that under control, and in bosses, this is not really what you want to be doing. You oftentimes want to be exhausting down. So it is a hallway card, but it's an awkward one, and it's a rare. It's quite weird. Okay. Unleash, this is a starter card, so I'm not going to talk about it, but in case you aren't aware, this is what lets Asti deal damage. Veil Piercer, 1 energy, deal 10 damage. Next ethereal card you play costs 0. Well, this is just going like into B somewhere. It's like a solid damage number, and it cheats energy. And notably, this does not say this turn. It just says the next one. So if you have something like Domain that you want to cheat into play, having it cost 0, well, now you can. You can add ethereal to keyword or to cards in certain ways, something like the Forbidden Grimoire or whatever. It's not necessary, but the fact that it just does the thing and cheats energy later, it just turns like damage now into energy later into some sort of payoff, you know, like it has high ceilings and it does a decent amount on its own. And I just don't think it's like a great card, but it's not a horrible one either. Order is loosely ordered. I'm not like going through and making sure that everything is perfectly placed, but it's like rough vibes. Okay, last card, Wisp. 0 energy, gain 1 energy, exhaust. It's like a pretty bad card. Oftentimes I don't feel like I want this. I'd rather have the reusable energy. I haven't really felt like I have wanted to pick this almost ever. The upgrade doesn't even make it go to 2 energy, so if you're really starving for energy, it just doesn't do enough. You already have to draw it alongside stuff you want to play that costs a lot. If you draw it in a hand of all 1 cost in like a Center's Bane, for example, which is not very often or not very infrequent because that's your entire starter deck, it just doesn't do anything. It's just a brick.
It does retain on upgrade, but there's no way I want to spend an upgrade on this thing to make it retain. It's just not a good enough effect. I think we can drop it maybe here. These still have a little bit more use than this, I think. But yeah, if it upgraded to 2 energy, it's just like Seeing Red, and that's a pretty decent card. It doesn't have Ethereal keyword on it. It's just kind of awkward. It just doesn't do enough. It's a very low impact draw, and I think there's better things you can be doing on this character, like just playing your block cards that block for 20 million. Okay, that is every card, I believe, except for the starter cards and the multiplayer cards. So I will scroll through the list now and kind of have some closing thoughts and just let people take screenshots or whatever. And I will upload this sometime later tomorrow, I assume. Okay. So again, for some closing thoughts, I think this character has a lot of room to be really, really cool. I think the souls mechanic and the repeatable energy generation needs to sort of be changed. I could see moving borrowed time up. Maybe we just throw this in here. I talked about this earlier when I was placing it, but I could definitely see it. The fact that it just enables so many things with souls, it goes infinite with so many cards just because they're reusable. It's kind of insane, honestly. But yeah, I think this whole package and exhausting down thing needs to be made harder. If your decks are bigger and you can make souls, it's less of a problem, but the issue is this character just has so many ways of exhausting cards randomly, just like everything else. Like half the cards say Ethereal exhaust on their own, or just you have like Seance and where's the other one? Cleanse, for example. 2 cards that just target exhaust, on top of, again, just a lot of the card packages already exhausting themselves. So the fact is that you can sort of just make like a really tiny deck or just exhaust down entirely means that most runs are just going to go down to the same problem that Silent has, where every run just goes infinite, or can. I don't think you have to, and it feels more often that this character gets to do other fun things. I have more cool interactions on this character than anything else, but it's just not it's not in a healthy place, I think, for the infinites to be so readily available. I think part of this is also ancient boons that they need to rework, but I think you'll hear this complaint a lot as I go through these tier lists, that all the characters sort of feel like this. It is what it is for now. I trust the devs to work on it and fix it, but it is just creating this issue where runs are feeling rather samey at top level. I think probably new players don't feel this way, and there's still a lot of challenge and intrigue in the game. I think as you get better, that kind of goes away a little bit. I still love this game, and I definitely think that they'll be able to fix it, but just kind of putting some of the problem points out there. I know that the devs are watching these probably. So yeah, just wanted to make my thoughts more clear, and hopefully it's helpful to them and helpful to you trying to learn the character. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.